I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. It's always interesting when someone invites me to speak, because sometimes I'm not sure why exactly. I think that a lot of people are curious about my life because I seem to be doing a lot, and they wonder, how are you able to accomplish so much, to do so many things? But I really think that what makes people curious about my life when they hear my story isn't so much the things I'm doing now. It's not that I'm, changing the world, or it's not that I'm the governor of the state or anything special. It's that I've come so far in a short period of time, and that's kind of that's what I'd like to share with you today is how I've been able to come so far. Just a little bit more background on me. I'm a CPA, as Debbie said, and I've had my own business I'm going on 4 years, and I specialize in business valuation and forensic accounting. Most of my work is involved in large litigation cases where the parties in a litigation case need someone to analyze what damages are and how much money should be paid. So my specialty is really in determining the value of a harm and also unraveling some of the financial problems that gave rise to litigation. It's a really unique practice area. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I get the opportunity to work with very large organizations and famous people sometimes that have big litigation problems, and so it's a very challenging business. I have 3 to 4 people who work with me in it, and it's been extremely rewarding to be able to be out on my own. I also, as Debbie mentioned, have a family. I'm married. I have 4 children, and so sometimes people wonder, how are you able to balance that? And in addition to that, my husband and I spend probably about 20 hours a week working in our nonprofit organization. So there's really a lot going on in my life. But it didn't used to be that way. Probably about 10 years ago, when I was in my late 20s, I was at a point in my life where I really felt like I had little to offer in friendships and also professionally. I had been living a very defeated life during my 20s. I graduated from college, with fairly good grades, but in the process of going to college, I kind of started living a life that where I was basically trying to lose myself. Sometimes people say I was going through a phase where I was trying to find myself. Well, in this phase of my life, I was trying to lose myself. I was really just living a destructive life and experimenting in a lot of ways at how destructive I could be with my life. I'm not really sure why. I could spend time analyzing that, but I won't. But the bottom line is that I developed a drinking problem in my early 20s and in college, and then in my early professional days in a big public accounting firm. I spent a lot of time going out with friends and drinking and really having a great time. But that led into a drinking problem in my life, and which grew gradually, but over time I woke up and realized that I had a problem and I wasn't able to stop. And so for a period of probably 5 or 6 years in my 20s, I really tried to get that under control and couldn't. I also struggled with eating disorders throughout my whole 20s era, and that was a very secret problem that not even the people closest to me really knew about. Some people knew about it, but they really didn't know the extent to which it was destroying my life. And then on top of those 2 things, I also went through a series of very destructive relationships where it would last for a year or so, and then there would be a breakup that would leave me feeling very empty and worthless as a person. So by the time I reached my late 20s, I had a lot of issues that were tangled up in my life that were all kind of knotted up together. And professionally, I was okay, but I wasn't really performing well at anything. I mean, I'd always been a high achiever and dedicated to my work, and I was an accountant then, and I had good jobs and I was making okay money, but I would always feel that my performance was mediocre and never really feeling like I was getting anywhere. So I was at this point in my life where I just felt very empty inside and didn't know. I had tried so many things to get my problems under control and nothing was working. And then finally, I reached a point at which I found a major breakthrough, and that came when I decided to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a very tough decision for me. I had a lot of pride about my professionalism, but I was at a place where I felt that I had nothing, no hope in my life. So I went to a meeting of AA in Northwest Portland, and when I went into that very first meeting, I saw that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous up on the wall. And as I read those 12 steps, a realization came to me that I had always known in my upbringing and in the back of my mind, but when I saw it that day, that way, up on the wall, it completely changed my life. And that was the third step of AA, is to surrender your life to God. And in AA, they don't tell you who is God or who that needs to be. It's basically a higher power. But in my life, I knew who that was. I had always had a faith. And I grew up in a Christian home, and in the back of my mind, God had always been there, and I had actually even prayed to Him and asked Him for healing from these problems, but I had never surrendered my life or really let go of my life like the steps in AA was recommending. So that night, without any formal ceremony or talking to anyone, I just did that. In a moment, I just let go and I said, okay, God, you have my life. I'm finished. I'm finished trying to control it and figure out my own answers and doing it my own way. I just let go. And in that moment of doing that, I felt this comfort, this affirmation inside of me that I was going to be okay, that these things that I had struggled with, the eating disorders and the alcoholism and the broken relationships, those things were being healed in my heart and in my body right then at that time. And sure enough, I walked out of that meeting that night and I never drank again. I never struggled with my eating disorders. And I started a new life that was completely different than my old life. The new life was, the foundation of it was a humility that I approached every decision, a humility of really evaluating, is this the right thing for me? In the past, I had always just kind of launched into something thinking, I know what I'm doing, I can do this, I can handle this. But with my new life and my new perspective, I really asked myself, is this the right thing for my life? And I submitted that also to God. And with that new humility, I began to rebuild my life. That happened probably about 10 years ago. And in the last 10 years, I've come a long, long way. I've come from being a defeated, barely productive, very discontent person to a very successful in a worldly way, but also deeply contented person. And I'd just like to spend the next 5 minutes or so sharing some of the 3 or 4 of the basic ideas that in the last 10 years that I've learned, the principles that I've really held on to that have made me able to take the largest steps forward in my professional life and my personal life. The first big principle that I've embraced in the last 10 years is to take complete responsibility for myself. I remember a time in my jobs when I would feel some resentment or some start to blame my bosses or people around me for things that were going wrong, or if things weren't quite perfect, I wouldn't want to look to myself for the answer. And shortly after I made this big change in my life, I had this kind of awakening that if I just stopped looking at people around me and took 100% responsibility for my own work and my own success, and I made sure that my work was always excellent beyond any criticism, then there would be no need to blame the other people around me. I don't know if I'm communicating this very well, but the day that I realized that and I put that into practice, my professional success just really took huge leaps ahead, because I stopped investing energy in criticizing other people, and I invested my energy into working hard and being excellent at what I do. That principle that I've held on to has made an enormous impact in my ability to run my own business, to be successful with my clients, because I'm not looking to someone else to provide for me or to give me what I need to be excellent. That's also a principle that's helped me to go out on my own instead of working for someone else, which is a big leap in someone's professional life. You're so used to getting a paycheck, you're used to relying on a big organization for your support, and there came a time in my life when I realized that it would be better for my family and for me if I took a leap of faith and went out on my own. But that principle of not looking to others or criticizing others is one of the things that really helped me believe that I could do this on my own. Another one of the really life-changing principles I learned during this last 10-year period is what I call live your life with nothing to hide. I say this to my children all the time. Live your life with nothing to hide. I feel that there's a lot of energy in our culture invested in untruths and in creating perceptions and in putting on costumes and perpetuating lies, I mean, to be perfectly honest. And when I stopped investing energy in those things and started just being honest with myself and being honest with people around me about who I am, I was really able to spend my energy and my talents and moving forward instead of just dealing with all of the energy that goes into maintaining the costume and maintaining the perceptions and remembering, what I've said to what people. This is a principle that I feel like as a society, if we all embraced, we would make so much more progress in this world. Because if you think about it, when you're putting on a costume and pretending to be somebody you're not, you really have to work at remembering who that is, because it's not really you. When you've got things in your life that you're trying to hide, things that you're not proud of, like decisions that you've made or people that you've betrayed, and you really spend a lot of energy in the covering up of those things. When I made this big change in my life of surrendering my life to God, and this is also part of the Alcoholics Anonymous steps, is to confess those things, to get those things out in the open and make amends and leave them behind. That was really a principle in my life that liberated me and caused me to really move forward, because now I spend my days and my time using my God-given talents to accomplish things instead of using those same talents to make up things that aren't real. The third thing that's made a big difference in my life is to realize that choices, that where you are today is based on a lot of little choices that you made along the way. I see life as a series of steps that were choices and small decisions. I see every decision as important no matter how small it is. And I try to take every decision and I pause and with humility ask, is this the right choice for me? Is this the right decision? This came to me one day so clearly when I was standing in line at my bank. It was in a work day, and I was standing kind of dressed like this, waiting in line. And there was a man in front of me who looked like he might be homeless. He was dressed very poorly. He didn't smell so good, and he was kind of muttering under his breath. And he went up to the teller in front of me and asked the teller for some money, wanted to make a withdrawal. And the teller said, "Sir, you have no money in your account." And he became very angry, and he started yelling at the teller. And he said, "You don't understand. I need this money today to pay my rent. If I don't pay my rent today, they will evict me. You have to give this to me today. There's supposed to be a government check. It's supposed to come through on the 1st of the month. I need it today, not tomorrow." He was desperate. And she said, "I'm sorry, sir, there's nothing I can do. There is no money in your account. I don't know where your government check is. That's not my responsibility." He was yelling at her and yelling at her. And I had this moment of this stepping outside of myself and asking, why am I like this? And why is he like that? Why is it that I'm standing here, you know, I'm going to make this deposit. I have a fair amount of money in my account. I'm dressed well, going home to my family and my home in the West Hills. Why is that? And as I was walking back to my office, what came to me was the word choices, that I had come to a time in my life when I decided that every decision was important and every decision was going to build on every decision. And I don't want to stand here and judge him, but my feeling was that he had made some bad choices that had snowballed in a big way and was not able to untangle himself from the fallout of those choices. And I strongly feel that little decisions, who you spend your time with, how you spend your money, what you do when no one's looking, all those little things, they add up to a place where one day you wake up and you're standing in line and you're wearing a suit and you have money in the bank and your life is together. Or it could be different because you, in the stubbornness of your heart, decided to do something else and decided to ignore, not ask yourself, is this the right thing for my life? Now the fourth one that I want to talk about is a little bit less obvious in some ways, and I call it walk through the doors that open. This is kind of based on Stephen Covey's book, The 10 Habits of Highly Successful People, a concept of only trying to control what's in your circle of influence. But for me, I see it a little bit differently because a lot of us really desire to have an impact on the world. We want to, you know, we don't want to waste our life. We see problems, we see things happening, and we would like to see ourselves as somebody who could rescue people or make a big difference or have a big impact, but we don't really know how to do that. I mean, you see the problems in Africa, for example, where there's something like 20 million orphans in Africa. Well, what can we do about 20 million orphans in Africa? Or you see people begging on the streets, or you just look at yourself and you say, I don't want to live my life and look back and say I did little to impact the world. Well, how do you really impact the world? I mean, sometimes these things seem so big, you can't see yourself in perspective to them. And one of the principles that I've learned that has been taught to me by some wonderful friends in my life is that when the door opens in your life, in your world, to an opportunity, don't be afraid to walk through it. Sometimes we see, I'd love to be able to do something in Africa for these people. It's so far away. But just yesterday, a door opened for you, and you didn't see it, or you were afraid, or you didn't believe you could actually do that. When those times come and they're in your world and they're in your life and you have the ability to do it, you better say yes. Because if you don't, the door closes and you're back to this place of, what could I do? And that's happened in my life, and fortunately I was able to walk through those doors, and amazing things have opened up for my husband and I. We met an African man in 2000 who came to our home one day. We didn't know he was coming. We had a home study group, and he just showed up because a guest brought him, and he just started talking about his life and some of his dreams for his life. And my husband and I saw one of those doors open, and we had never really thought, this is what we want to do. We want to go to Rwanda, we want to go to Africa. We didn't have it worked out like that, but someone came into our life that opened the door for us of opportunity. We looked at it, we saw it as risky, we saw it as really stretching us, but we thought, wow, what an opportunity right here in our home. So we decided to work with this man. This was in 2000, and we decided to help him reach his dreams for his own country and work through him. And long story short with that, today we have a nonprofit organization that reaches out to 1,000 kids in Rwanda. And looking back over time, I would have never said, I'm going to start an organization, a child sponsorship program, and orphanages and a school. I would have never said I could do that, or I had enough relationships or skills to build that. But because I was willing to take the first scary step and partner with someone I didn't know very well, and the first time I was invited to go to Africa, I said yes. Those steps all led to what's happened today. So this is one of the principles I strongly believe in, is when you've got the opportunity right in front of you, in your own home or in your office or in your neighborhood or somewhere in your life where you actually have the chance to do something small, do it right there, that day, today, and not wait for the big opportunity to change the world, because it doesn't work like that. It works with the very first step. So those are the four big things in the last few years that I feel that have really helped me to enjoy my life, to be more productive in my job, to really leave the old life behind and move forward and make a difference in the world. I also have to give credit, though, to my husband. People ask, how do you do this business and this work in Rwanda and have 4 kids, and it doesn't seem like there's enough time in the day. Well, there is if you have a great husband who's working as on your same team. I have to give thanks to him, because he is a special person who I feel like we're a good fit together. He spends a lot of time with the kids, running them around to their soccer games, coaching them. We work as a team on our Africa project, and I feel like it's very important when you're married to be able to do these things as a team and to be on the same page, because if he didn't support me in my desire to have my own business and my desire to travel to Africa, my desire to have children and work at the same time, if he didn't support that, it wouldn't be possible. So I can't get up and share about these things in my life without giving credit to him. He's a really special person who sees the value in supporting his wife in being able to accomplish these things. So that's pretty much it. I haven't given you a lot of details on all of the things I do, because I felt that it was more important to share from my heart what principles have mattered to me and have really helped me to be successful in my professional life, but also my personal life. So that's it. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Then thank you very much.